Sunny morning, hot asphalt, still air. A police officer on a routine patrol crosses a silent neighborhood and parks in an alley with no cameras. Shots ring out. He falls to the ground, breathing shallowly, blood on the concrete. From a dark sedan, gloved hands put the gun away. A glove stained with ink falls. The door closes silently. A police dog appears, running with dry barks, low snout, fixed gaze on his partner. The shooter vanishes around the corner. Radios fail. Backup is delayed. A team car keeps its engine running. The dog sniffs the torn vest, sprints to that car, plants his paws on the door, growls. Everything tenses up. The handle gives way. A silhouette moves inside. And for a second, everything stops. Do you love stories with animals? Then subscribe now and don't miss any. Thank you for following us. Now, let's get back to our story. That sunny morning in the quiet suburbs of Denver, Colorado, seemed to promise nothing more than the tranquility of another ordinary day. Detective Marcus Thompson adjusted his radio as he walked alongside his loyal German Shepherd partner Rex through the peaceful streets of Maple Heights neighborhood. The morning air was crisp, filled with the scent of blooming lilacs and fresh coffee drifting from kitchen windows where families were beginning their daily routines. Marcus had been with the Denver Police Department for 12 years, and Rex had been his partner for the last 5. Together, they had become an inseparable team, known throughout the precinct for their exceptional ability to solve cases that stumped other officers. Rex wasn't just any police dog. He had an almost supernatural intuition that had saved Marcus from trouble more times than he could count. The call had come in as a routine patrol request. Reports of suspicious activity near the old warehouse district on the edge of Maple Heights had prompted Captain Sarah Mitchell to dispatch Marcus and several other officers to investigate. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary as they arrived at the scene. Their patrol cars lined up along Elm Street, casting long shadows in the morning sun. Detective Jake Rodriguez stepped out of his patrol car, adjusting his vest as he approached Marcus. "Morning, Thompson. Quiet out here, isn't it?" Jake had been Marcus's colleague for 8 years, a reliable officer with a good sense of humor who could lighten the mood even in tense situations. "Too quiet," Marcus replied, watching as Rex sniffed the air with unusual intensity. The dog's ears were perked up, his body language suggesting he sensed something that the humans couldn't detect. "Rex seems on edge. He's been acting strange since we got the call." Detective Amanda Collins joined them. Her blonde hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She was one of the department's rising stars, known for her sharp, analytical mind and attention to detail. The residents reported seeing someone in a police uniform around here yesterday evening. But dispatch has no record of any patrols scheduled for this area. Marcus frowned. That was unusual. The Denver PD maintained strict scheduling protocols, and unauthorized patrols were strictly forbidden. Did anyone get a description of this supposed officer? Mrs. Henderson, from house number 47, said she saw him around sunset, standing near the old Peterson warehouse. She thought it was routine patrol, so she didn't think much of it at the time. Amanda flipped through her notes. But when she mentioned it to her neighbor this morning, they realized no one else had seen any official patrol cars. Rex suddenly tensed. His attention focused on a black sedan parked about 50 yards away. The dog began to pull on his leash, whining softly in a way that Marcus had learned to interpret as a warning sign. In their years together, Rex had never been wrong when he displayed this particular behavior. "Hold on, guys," Marcus said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "Rex is picking up on something." As if responding to his name, Rex broke into a run toward the sedan, barking in a way that made the hair on Marcus's arms stand up. It wasn't his usual alert bark. It was desperate, almost frantic. The 3 officers followed, their hands instinctively moving to their service weapons, though they couldn't identify any immediate threat. When they reached the vehicle, Rex began circling it, his nose working frantically along the ground near the driver's side door. Marcus knelt down beside his partner, trying to understand what had captured the dog's attention so completely. "What is it, boy? What do you smell?" Marcus examined the ground where Rex was focused, but to his human eyes, there was nothing unusual. Just ordinary asphalt and a few scattered leaves. Amanda was checking the license plate on her radio when suddenly the peaceful morning was shattered. A series of loud popping sounds echoed through the air, not the sharp crack of gunfire, but something that sounded like firecrackers or small explosions. The sounds came from the direction of the warehouse district, causing all three officers to spin around in alert. "What the hell was that?" Jake shouted, drawing his weapon instinctively. Before anyone could answer, Marcus felt a sharp pain in his shoulder as something struck him. He stumbled backward, his vision blurring momentarily as he tried to understand what had happened. It wasn't a bullet. It felt more like he'd been hit by a rubber projectile, but with enough force to knock him off balance. Rex immediately ran to his partner's side, barking frantically and refusing to leave Marcus's side, even as the other officers tried to assess the situation. The dog positioned himself between Marcus and the direction from where the projectile had come, his protective instincts in full display. "Marcus, are you hit?" Amanda rushed to his side, her training kicking in as she scanned the area for threats while simultaneously trying to help her colleague. "I'm okay, I think," Marcus gasped, touching his shoulder where a large bruise was already beginning to form beneath his vest. It felt like a rubber bullet or something similar, but where did it come from? Jake was speaking rapidly into his radio, trying to call for backup, but his voice was filled with frustration. "Dispatch. This is Unit 7, requesting immediate backup at Elm Street. We have an officer down and possible sniper activity. Dispatch. Do you copy?" Static filled the airwaves. Jake tried again, adjusting the frequency, but the response was the same. Nothing but white noise and occasional crackling sounds. "The radios are being jammed," Amanda realized, her face pale with concern. "Someone doesn't want us calling for help." Rex's behavior became even more agitated. He ran to Marcus, then to the sedan, then back to Marcus, as if trying to communicate something urgent. His barks had changed pitch, becoming more insistent, almost pleading. Marcus struggled to his feet, his shoulder throbbing, but his determination stronger than ever. "Rex is trying to tell us something. He's been acting strange since we got here, and now this happens. It's not a coincidence." Amanda helped steady Marcus, while Jake continued attempting to reach dispatch. "We need to get you medical attention, Marcus, and we need to figure out what's going on here." "No," Marcus said firmly, watching as Rex ran back to the sedan and began pawing at something near the rear tire. "First, we need to understand what Rex found. He's never wrong, Amanda, if he's this worked up about that car. And there's a reason." As the three officers approached the vehicle more carefully, Rex's behavior became even more frantic. He was no longer just sniffing, he was actively trying to dig at something beneath the car. His claws scraped against the asphalt as he worked with desperate determination. "Look at this," Amanda called out, kneeling down beside Rex. "There's something under here." She reached carefully under the vehicle and pulled out a small, paint-stained glove. The paint was still wet, a bright red color that stood out starkly against the black rubber material. "This paint is fresh," she observed, holding the glove carefully by the cuff. "Someone was wearing this very recently." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with his injury. The morning that had started so peacefully was quickly becoming something much more complicated and dangerous. Rex's intuition had led them to evidence. "But evidence of what exactly?" "We need to search this entire area," he said, his voice steady despite the growing unease he felt. "And we need to find out why our communications are being jammed. This isn't random, guys. Someone planned this." As if to confirm his words, Rex suddenly bolted toward the warehouse district, barking over his shoulder as if urging them to follow. The dog had found something else, and Marcus knew that whatever it was, it would change everything they thought they knew about this quiet morning in Maple Heights. Rex led them through the maze of abandoned warehouses that lined the industrial edge of Maple Heights, his powerful legs carrying him swiftly over cracked concrete and through weeds that had grown tall in the neglect of years. Marcus, still nursing his injured shoulder, struggled to keep pace alongside Amanda and Jake, but his trust in his canine partner's instincts overrode any physical discomfort. The German Shepherd stopped abruptly in front of a weathered brick building that had once housed a textile manufacturing company. The faded sign above the entrance read, Morrison Textiles Est, 1987. Though the company had been defunct for nearly a decade, Rex began pawing at the ground near a side entrance, his behavior eerily similar to what they had witnessed at the sedan. He's found something else, Marcus observed, breathing heavily from the exertion. Rex, what is it, boy? Amanda knelt beside the dog and examined the area where he was focused. There are tire marks here, she said, tracing the faint impressions in the dust with her finger. Fresh ones. Someone's been using this entrance recently. Jake tried his radio again, but the jamming signal remained strong. Still nothing. Whoever's doing this has some serious equipment. This isn't some amateur operation. The three officers approached the warehouse entrance cautiously. The metal door was slightly ajar, creaking softly in the morning breeze. Rex positioned himself between his human companions and the entrance, his hackles raised and his body tense with alertness. "Should we wait for backup?" Amanda asked, though they all knew the answer. Without communication, backup might never come. "We can't wait," Marcus decided, "but we go in carefully, stay together, and watch Rex. He'll warn us if there's immediate danger." Inside the warehouse, shafts of sunlight streamed through grimy windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the stale air. The space was largely empty, save for some old machinery covered in canvas tarps and stacks of wooden pallets that created shadows throughout the cavernous interior. Rex immediately began investigating a corner of the warehouse where several folding chairs had been arranged in a rough circle. The chairs looked out of place in the abandoned building, too clean and well-maintained compared to everything else around them. "Someone's been meeting here," Jake observed, examining the chairs more closely. "And recently, too. Look at these footprints in the dust." Amanda was studying the ground around the makeshift meeting area when she made another discovery. "There's more than just footprints here," she said, pointing to several small objects scattered near one of the chairs. "Looks like someone dropped these." She carefully collected what appeared to be small pieces of paper, each bearing partial impressions of official seals and letterheads, even torn and fragmented as they were. The pieces clearly came from official Denver Police Department documents. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat as he recognized elements of the letterhead. Those looked like they came from internal reports, the kind that don't leave the precinct without authorization. Or the kind that someone removes without authorization, Jake added grimly. Rex had moved on to investigate another area of the warehouse, his nose working systematically along the floor near what appeared to be an old loading dock. The dog's behavior had shifted again. He was no longer frantic, but intensely focused, as if following a specific scent trail. "He's tracking something," Marcus realized, watching his partner's methodical movements. Someone was definitely here, and recently enough that Rex can still follow their trail. The trail led them to the loading dock area, where they discovered something that made all three officers exchange worried glances. Scattered across the concrete were more fragments of official documents, but these were different from what Amanda had found near the chairs. These pieces bore the unmistakable markings of case files, specifically case files that Marcus recognized as his own. "These are from the Riverside investigation," he said, his voice tight with concern. The one I've been working on for the past 3 months. How did pieces of my case files end up in an abandoned warehouse? Amanda collected the fragments carefully, her mind racing through the implications. Marcus. Who else has access to these files? That's just it, they're classified. Only myself, Captain Mitchell, and Chief Harrison should have access to these particular documents. They contain sensitive information about ongoing investigations into the city's construction contracts. Jake was examining the loading dock area when he noticed something else unusual. "Look at this," he called out, pointing to a series of small holes drilled into the concrete floor in a precise pattern. These holes are fresh. The concrete dust around them is still white, not weathered like it should be if they'd been here for months. Rex began barking again, but this time his tone was different, urgent and warning. The dog ran to Marcus and began pulling on his pant leg, trying to lead him away from the loading dock area. "Rex wants us out of here," Marcus said, trusting his partner's judgment completely. Now, they had barely moved 10 feet from the loading dock when they heard a mechanical clicking sound, followed by a small puff of smoke rising from the area where they had been standing. Whatever device had been hidden in those holes, Rex had sensed its activation and gotten them clear in time. "Someone's still monitoring this place," Amanda said, her voice tense. "Those holes, they were some kind of warning system or deterrent." As they exited the warehouse through the side entrance, Jake finally managed to get a partial signal on his radio. Through heavy static, they could hear fragments of dispatcher communications. Unit 7, location. Immediate response required. "They're looking for us," Jake said, working to clear the signal, but something's still interfering with full communication. Marcus was studying the industrial area around them, trying to piece together what they had discovered. This isn't random vandalism or squatters using an abandoned building. Someone's been using this place for organized meetings, and they have access to my case files. The question is why? Rex had calmed down now that they were away from the warehouse, but he remained alert, his head turning toward every small sound. The dog's behavior suggested that while the immediate danger had passed, the threat was still present somewhere nearby. Amanda was photographing the evidence they had collected when her attention was caught by something else. "Marcus, look at the pattern of those tire tracks we found outside. They're not from just one vehicle. I count at least 3 different tread patterns, maybe 4. So we're talking about multiple people meeting here regularly," Jake concluded. "People with access to police documents, people with sophisticated jamming equipment, and people who are organized enough to set up warning systems." Marcus felt a growing unease as the pieces began forming a troubling picture. His injury, the jammed communications, the scattered case files, the evidence of regular meetings in an abandoned warehouse. None of it felt like coincidence. "We need to get back to the station," he decided. "But we're not going to report this through normal channels. Not until we understand who we can trust." As they made their way back toward their patrol cars, Rex suddenly stopped and looked back toward the warehouse district. His ears were perked forward, and he began a low, rumbling growl that Marcus had learned to recognize as his partner's way of indicating that they were being watched. "Someone's still out there," Marcus said quietly. "Rex knows we're not alone." The 3 officers quickened their pace, each of them acutely aware that their morning patrol had uncovered something much larger and more dangerous than any of them had anticipated. Behind them, Rex continued to watch their rear, his protective instincts in full alert as they retreated from whatever conspiracy was unfolding in the shadows of Maple Heights. The sunny morning that had promised such tranquility now felt heavy with menace, and Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something that certain people would do anything to keep hidden. The Denver Police Department's 5th Precinct building stood like a fortress of glass and brick on Colfax Avenue, its imposing facade promising safety and justice to the community it served. As Marcus, Amanda and Jake approached the building with Rex at their side. None of them felt the usual sense of security that came with returning to headquarters. Captain Sarah Mitchell was waiting for them in the lobby, her auburn hair pulled back in her characteristic professional bun, her sharp green eyes immediately assessing Marcus's condition. She was a woman who commanded respect through competence rather than intimidation, having worked her way up through the ranks over 15 years of dedicated service. "Thompson, Rodriguez filled me in over the radio about the incident," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to handling crises. "Are you injured seriously?" "Nothing that won't heal, Captain," Marcus replied, though he winced slightly as he adjusted his position. But we discovered something at the scene that's much more concerning than my shoulder." Captain Mitchell led them to her office on the 3rd floor, a space that reflected her methodical nature with its organized files and precisely arranged commendations. Rex settled beside Marcus's chair, but his ears remained alert, swiveling toward every sound in the hallway outside. "Tell me everything," the captain said, settling behind her desk as Amanda spread out the evidence they had collected on the conference table. Marcus recounted their morning's discoveries while Amanda documented each piece of evidence. The paint-stained glove, the fragments of official documents, the tire tracks, the sophisticated communication jamming, each detail painted a picture that became more troubling with every revelation. "You're telling me that pieces of your classified case files were scattered in an abandoned warehouse?" Captain Mitchell's expression grew increasingly grave as she examined the document fragments. "Marcus, when did you last access these files?" "Yesterday evening, before I left the station, I was reviewing the Riverside Construction Contracts investigation, looking for connections to some irregularities we'd discovered in the bidding process." Captain Mitchell walked to her filing cabinet and retrieved a key from her desk drawer. "I need to verify something," she said, unlocking a secure cabinet that contained sensitive case files. Her face paled as she searched through the organized folders. "The entire Riverside file is missing," she announced, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Not just copies, the original file. All the backup documentation, everything." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "Captain, who else has access to that cabinet?" "Myself, Chief Harrison, and Detective Thompson. The keys are strictly controlled, and there's supposed to be a log of every access." She checked the access log, clipped to the inside of the cabinet door. According to this, the last recorded access was Marcus yesterday at 6:30 p.m. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. But I locked the file back in the cabinet before I left. I'm absolutely certain of that." Amanda was studying the document fragments when she noticed something that made her frown. "Captain, look at these pieces more carefully. The paper quality is different from standard department forms. This looks like it might be photocopies, not originals." "You mean someone made copies of the files before they were stolen?" Captain Mitchell examined the fragments more closely. "That would suggest this wasn't a simple theft. It was intelligence gathering." Rex suddenly stood up and walked to the office window, his body tense as he gazed down at the parking lot below. His low growl indicated that something had caught his attention. "What is it, Rex?" Marcus joined his partner at the window, following the dog's line of sight. In the parking lot, Chief Robert Harrison was engaged in what appeared to be an intense conversation with a man in a dark suit whom none of them recognized. The stranger was gesticulating emphatically, and even from 3 floors up, it was clear that the discussion was heated. "Who's the man with Chief Harrison?" Amanda asked, joining them at the window. Captain Mitchell looked troubled as she observed the scene below. "I don't know. But Harrison's been receiving a lot of private calls lately, more than usual." As they watched, the stranger handed Chief Harrison a manila envelope. The chief looked around nervously before accepting it and quickly tucking it inside his jacket. The entire exchange had the unmistakable appearance of something that wasn't meant to be witnessed. "That doesn't look like official business," Jake observed. Rex's growling intensified, and he began pacing back and forth in front of the window. The dog's agitation was becoming more pronounced, as if he could sense the tension of the situation, even from a distance. "Captain," Marcus said carefully, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to consider it seriously. Is there any possibility that someone inside the department is involved in whatever's happening?" Captain Mitchell was quiet for a long moment, her gaze still fixed on the parking lot where Chief Harrison and the stranger had concluded their meeting and were going their separate ways. "Marcus, in 20 years of police work, that's not a question I ever wanted to have to consider seriously," she said finally. "But given what you've discovered this morning, I think we have to examine that possibility." Amanda was organizing the evidence when she made another unsettling discovery. "Captain, I've been thinking about the timing of everything. The communication jamming started right around the time we should have been calling in our location for the patrol check. Someone knew exactly when we'd be trying to radio in. And they knew exactly where we'd be," Jake added. "The call about suspicious activity in Maple Heights, who initiated that call?" Captain Mitchell checked her computer, pulling up the dispatch logs. "The call came in at 7:45 a.m. from a resident reporting unusual activity near the warehouse district. The caller identified herself as Mrs. Patricia Henderson." "We spoke to Mrs. Henderson," Amanda said, "but she told us she saw the suspicious police officer yesterday evening, not this morning. She never mentioned calling in a report." The room fell silent as the implications of this discrepancy sank in. Someone had used Mrs. Henderson's name to make a false report, deliberately sending them to the warehouse district at a specific time. "We were set up," Marcus said grimly. "Someone wanted us at that location this morning." Rex had returned to Marcus's side, but the dog remained agitated. He kept looking toward the door of Captain Mitchell's office, his head tilted as if listening to sounds beyond human hearing. "There's something else," Marcus continued. "The projectile that hit me, it wasn't meant to cause serious injury. It was just enough to slow us down, to make us stay in the area longer. If someone wanted to hurt me seriously, they had the opportunity." Captain Mitchell stood up and began pacing behind her desk, a habit she had when working through complex problems. "So we have evidence of someone accessing classified files, someone making false police reports, sophisticated jamming of our communications, and now Chief Harrison meeting with unidentified individuals in the parking lot. The question is, are these connected incidents, or are we looking at something even larger?" Before anyone could answer, there was a knock on the office door. Chief Harrison entered without waiting for permission, his usually confident demeanor seeming somewhat strained. He was a man in his late 50s, with gray hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. But today, something seemed off about his usual composure. "Captain Mitchell, I understand there was an incident during patrol this morning," he said, his eyes scanning the evidence spread across the conference table. "Detective Thompson, I hope your injury isn't serious." Rex immediately positioned himself between Chief Harrison and Marcus, a behavior that surprised everyone in the room. The dog had never shown any negative reaction to the chief before, but now his body language suggested deep suspicion. "I'm fine, Chief," Marcus replied, noting his partner's unusual behavior with growing unease. "We were just briefing Captain Mitchell on what we discovered." Chief Harrison's eyes lingered on the document fragments. "I see you've recovered some evidence. I'll need to review all of this immediately. These kinds of incidents require careful handling at the highest levels." "Of course." "Chief," Captain Mitchell said, though her tone was carefully neutral, "we were just discussing how to proceed with the investigation. I think it would be best if I handled this matter personally," Chief Harrison said, reaching for the evidence bags. Given the sensitive nature of what appears to be stolen department files, this needs to be contained at the administrative level. Rex's growling became audible, causing everyone in the room to tense. The dog had never displayed such open hostility toward a superior officer, and his behavior was creating an atmosphere of uncomfortable suspicion. "Chief, if you don't mind," Marcus said carefully, "I'd like to continue working this case with my team. Rex has been instrumental in uncovering evidence, and I think we're close to understanding what's really happening." Chief Harrison's expression hardened slightly. "Detective Thompson, I appreciate your dedication, but this matter is too sensitive for field investigation. I'll be taking direct control of all evidence and witness statements." The tension in the room was palpable, and Rex's continued agitation was making it clear that something about this situation was very wrong. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the precinct as Marcus, Amanda, and Jake found themselves in an increasingly precarious position. Chief Harrison had indeed taken control of most of their evidence, but not before Amanda had discreetly photographed everything with her personal phone. The three officers had agreed to meet in the precinct's break room during the shift change, when the building would be relatively quiet. Rex lay at Marcus's feet, but his alertness hadn't diminished since the morning's events. The German Shepherd's behavior had become so unusual that other officers had begun to notice, commenting on how the normally friendly dog seemed on edge around certain members of the department. "We need to talk about what happened in Captain Mitchell's office," Amanda said, keeping her voice low as she poured coffee for the three of them. Rex's reaction to Chief Harrison was unlike anything I've ever seen from him. "Rex has never been wrong about people," Marcus replied, absently stroking his partner's head. "If he doesn't trust the chief, there's a reason. The question is, what do we do about it?" Jake was reviewing Amanda's photographs of the evidence on her phone when something caught his attention. "Look at this fragment more carefully," he said, zooming in on one of the document pieces. "This letterhead isn't from our precinct. It's from Internal Affairs." Marcus felt his blood run cold. Internal Affairs documents would only be in the chief's personal files, accessible to almost no one else in the department. That means whoever stole the files has access to YA investigations too, or they have someone feeding them information from the very top levels of the department. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of someone unexpected. A woman in her early 30s, with long dark hair and intelligent brown eyes, approached their table hesitantly. She wore civilian clothes, a simple blue sweater and dark jeans, but something about her bearing suggested she was no ordinary visitor. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying a slight accent that Marcus couldn't immediately place. "Are you Detective Thompson?" Marcus tensed, his hand instinctively moving to his service weapon. "Who's asking?" "My name is Elena Vasquez. I'm a federal investigator, and I believe your life may be in danger." Rex stood up immediately, positioning himself between the stranger and Marcus, but his body language was different from his reaction to Chief Harrison. The dog was alert but not hostile, as if he was assessing rather than defending. "Federal investigator," Amanda questioned. "Can you show us some identification?" Elena reached slowly into her purse and produced a badge and identification card. "Oh no, I'm with the FBI's Public Corruption Unit. We've been investigating irregularities in Denver City contracts for the past 8 months. Jake examined the credentials carefully. These looked legitimate, but why come to us? Why not work through official channels? Because we have reason to believe that official channels have been compromised, Elena replied, glancing around the break room to ensure they weren't being overheard. Your investigation into the Riverside construction contracts has put you at the center of something much larger than municipal corruption. Marcus felt Rex relax slightly beside him, as if the dog approved of Elena's presence. It was a subtle change, but one that Marcus had learned to trust implicitly. What kind of corruption are we talking about? he asked. Eleanor pulled out a tablet and showed them a series of photographs and documents. For the past 2 years, someone has been manipulating city construction contracts to benefit specific companies. We're talking about millions of dollars in fraudulent awards, but the conspiracy goes deeper than money. She swiped to another screen showing surveillance photographs. The people involved have been using their positions to gather intelligence on law enforcement investigations that might threaten their operation. They've infiltrated multiple city departments, including the police. Amanda studied the images on the tablet. Are you saying there's a mole in our department? We're saying there are multiple individuals involved, and at least one of them has access to classified police files and the ability to influence operations. Elena's expression was grave. Detective Thompson, your investigation into the Riverside contracts was getting close to exposing the entire network. That's why someone wanted to discredit me, Marcus realized. The attack this morning, the stolen files, it was all designed to either eliminate me from the investigation or make me look unreliable. Rex suddenly raised his head, his ears perked toward the break room entrance. Footsteps were approaching in the hallway outside, and the dog's posture indicated that whoever was coming was someone he considered a threat. Someone's coming, Jake whispered, and Elena quickly shut off her tablet and slipped it back into her purse. Chief Harrison appeared in the doorway, his eyes immediately focusing on Elena. Detective Thompson, who is this civilian, and why is she in our break room discussing police business? This is Elena Vasquez, Chief. She's a witness in the Riverside case who came forward with additional information, Marcus replied, thinking quickly. Elena stood up smoothly, extending her hand to Chief Harrison. Chief, I was just telling Detective Thompson that I might have information relevant to his investigation. Rex's growling was barely audible, but Marcus could feel the tension in his partner's body. The dog was practically vibrating with suppressed agitation. Miss Vasquez, I'll need to speak with you privately about any information you might have, Chief Harrison said, his tone leaving no room for argument. This case is now under my direct supervision. I understand, Chief, Elena replied, but Marcus noticed she was looking directly at him as she spoke. Perhaps we could schedule a time tomorrow morning. I'm not available for the rest of today. After Elena left and Chief Harrison departed, the 3 officers sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Amanda spoke up. There's something very wrong here. A federal investigator shows up claiming there's corruption in our department, and minutes later, the chief appears like he was monitoring our conversation. The timing is too convenient, Jake agreed. Either Elena Vasquez is exactly what she claims to be, or this is an elaborate setup. Marcus was thinking about Rex's reactions to both Elena and Chief Harrison. The dog's behavior had been completely different with each person. Suspicious but not hostile with Elena, openly aggressive with the chief. Rex trusts her, he said finally, and he definitely doesn't trust Chief Harrison. In 5 years of working together, my partner has never been wrong about people. Amanda was reviewing her phone again when she noticed something that made her frown. Guys, look at this. I photographed the surveillance images on Elena's tablet. These pictures show meetings taking place at the warehouse where we found evidence this morning. She showed them the screen where a partially visible figure in police uniform could be seen entering the Morrison Textiles building. The image wasn't clear enough to identify the person, but the timing stamp showed it was taken 3 days ago. Someone has been watching that warehouse for weeks, Jake observed. Either Elena is exactly who she says she is, or she's part of whatever conspiracy is happening. Rex stood up and walked to the break room window, his attention focused on the parking lot below. Marcus joined him and saw Chief Harrison in heated conversation with another man in a suit, possibly the same person they had observed that morning, though it was difficult to be certain from their current angle. He's at it again, Marcus said, meeting with people who aren't supposed to be here. Amanda was still studying the photographs when she made another discovery. Wait, look at this image more carefully. In the background, you can see part of a license plate on that black sedan. She zoomed in on the image, revealing a partial plate number that matched the vehicle they had investigated that morning. It's the same car, Jake said, the one Rex was so interested in, which means Elena has been surveillance photos of the exact location where we found evidence. Marcus felt pieces of a puzzle beginning to align in his mind, though the complete picture remained frustratingly unclear. One, we're caught in the middle of something that started long before this morning. The question is whether Elena Vasquez is trying to help us solve it or ensure we never discover the truth. Rex returned to his side, settling down but remaining alert. The dog's behavior suggested that danger was still present, still watching, still waiting for the right moment to strike. As the afternoon shift wound down and evening approached, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the events of the day had set something irreversible in motion. Whatever conspiracy had been operating in the shadows was now being forced into the light, and he wasn't sure whether that would lead to justice or put everyone he cared about in even greater danger. The following morning arrived with an overcast sky that seemed to mirror the tension hanging over the Denver Police Department. Marcus had spent a restless night thinking about Elena Vasquez's revelations and Chief Harrison's increasingly suspicious behavior. Rex had been equally unsettled, pacing around Marcus's apartment until the early hours of the morning, as if sensing that the day ahead would bring decisive confrontations. Captain Mitchell had called an early meeting, requesting that Marcus, Amanda, and Jake arrive at the precinct before the regular shift began. As they gathered in her office, she closed the door and activated a white noise machine, a precaution that immediately told them this conversation was off the record. "I've been doing some digging of my own," Captain Mitchell began, her expression grave. "The access logs for the evidence room show irregularities going back 6 months. Files have been checked out and returned outside normal hours, always by someone with administrative-level clearance." Amanda leaned forward in her chair. "Someone's been reviewing cases they shouldn't have access to. Not just reviewing, copying. The IT department found evidence of massive file transfers from our secure servers to an external drive. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were looking for and had the technical skills to cover their tracks." Marcus felt Rex tense beside him, the dog's head turning toward the office door. "Someone's in the hallway," he warned quietly. Captain Mitchell checked her computer screen, which showed feeds from the security cameras. "It's Elena Vasquez. She's here early for her meeting with Chief Harrison." "Captain," Jake said urgently, "we need to tell you what Elena told us yesterday. If she's really FBI, then everything we suspected about internal corruption might be true." As Captain Mitchell listened to their account of Elena's claims about the Public Corruption Unit investigation, her expression grew increasingly troubled. If there's federal involvement, it means this conspiracy goes far beyond what we initially suspected. Rex suddenly bolted from his position beside Marcus's chair and ran to the window. His barking was sharp and insistent, the kind of alert that Marcus had learned meant immediate danger. "What is it, Rex?" Marcus joined his partner at the window, looking down at the parking lot where Elena's small Honda was parked next to Chief Harrison's patrol SUV. Through the morning gloom, Marcus could see Chief Harrison approaching Elena's vehicle, but instead of engaging in conversation, he was placing something small and black underneath her car. "He's planting something under Elena's car," Marcus said urgently. "Amanda, call building security now." "I can't," Amanda replied, frantically working her phone. "Why, the internal communication system is being jammed again, just like yesterday morning." Captain Mitchell grabbed her radio, but static filled the airwaves. "Someone's definitely interfering with our communications. This isn't coincidence." Rex's barking became more frantic, and he began pawing at the window as if trying to get outside. The dog's behavior was so agitated that other sounds in the building seemed to fade in comparison. "We have to get down there," Marcus decided. "If Elena's really federal and Harrison's compromised, then she's walking into a trap." The three officers and Captain Mitchell hurried toward the elevator, but Rex refused to get in. The German Shepherd planted himself firmly in front of the elevator doors, barking and backing away whenever they tried to coax him inside. "Rex, come on," Marcus urged. "We need to help Elena." But the dog was adamant, running toward the stairwell instead. His behavior was so insistent that Marcus finally understood. The elevator's not safe, he realized. Rex is trying to tell us something's wrong with it. They took the stairs instead, Rex leading the way with an urgency that made it clear he sensed immediate danger. As they reached the second-floor landing, a small explosion echoed through the building, followed by the sound of grinding metal and breaking cables. "The elevator," Captain Mitchell said, her face pale. "If we'd been in there..." "Someone sabotaged it," Amanda concluded. "They wanted to prevent us from reaching the parking lot." Rex burst through the stairwell door onto the ground floor, racing toward the building's rear exit with the determination of a dog who knew exactly where he needed to go. Marcus and the others followed, trusting his instincts completely. In the parking lot, they found Elena standing beside her Honda, examining something in her hand. Chief Harrison was nowhere to be seen, but his patrol SUV was gone. "Elena!" Marcus called out as they approached. She turned toward them, holding up a small electronic device. "Someone planted a GPS tracker under my car," she said. "Probably the same person who's been monitoring my investigation." "That was Chief Harrison," Marcus told her. "We saw him place it there from Captain Mitchell's office window." Elena's expression hardened. "Then our timeline just accelerated significantly. I was hoping to gather more evidence before making any arrests. But if Harrison knows I'm federal, the entire operation is compromised." Rex was sniffing around Elena's car when he suddenly froze, his body going rigid with alarm. The dog began barking frantically at a small object attached to the undercarriage that none of them had noticed before. "That's not just a GPS tracker," Elena said, kneeling down to examine the device Rex had found. "It's much more sophisticated." Amanda took photos of the device with her phone. "It looks like some kind of listening device combined with a tracking system. Military-grade equipment. Whoever's behind this has access to surveillance technology that goes way beyond what local corruption could afford," Elena observed. "We're dealing with something much larger than municipal contract fraud." Captain Mitchell was studying the device when she noticed something that made her step back in alarm. "That's not just surveillance equipment. There's a small antenna and what looks like a detonation mechanism." "A bomb?" Jake asked incredulously. "Not designed to cause major damage, but enough to disable the vehicle or cause a minor accident," Elena replied grimly. "Someone wanted to control my movements or create a distraction." Rex continued to circle Elena's car, and his behavior indicated there might be additional devices. The dog's systematic search pattern suggested he was following multiple scent trails. "Rex has found something else," Marcus observed, watching his partner focus on a storm drain near the parking area. "He's tracking whoever planted these devices." The German Shepherd led them to the storm drain, where Elena used a flashlight app on her phone to illuminate the interior. Nestled inside was a small waterproof container that held additional electronic equipment and a radio frequency scanner. "This is a complete surveillance operation," Elena said, examining the equipment. "Someone's been monitoring all police communications in this area for weeks, maybe months." Amanda was photographing everything when she noticed a detail that had escaped their attention. "Look at the serial numbers on this equipment. They're federal issue, but not FBI." Elena studied the numbers carefully. "These devices are registered to a classified Department of Homeland Security operation, but I don't have any record of DHS involvement in our investigation." Unless DHS is investigating the investigators, Captain Mitchell suggested grimly. Rex suddenly tensed again, his attention focused on the precinct building behind them. The dog's posture indicated that someone was watching them from one of the upper floors. "We're being observed," Marcus warned, following his partner's gaze to see a figure silhouetted in a third-floor window. "That's Chief Harrison's office," Captain Mitchell identified. "But if he's up there, how did he get back into the building so quickly?" Elena checked her watch. "Because he never left. The person we saw planting the tracker was someone else wearing his uniform." The implications of this revelation hit them all simultaneously. If someone else had been impersonating Chief Harrison, it meant the conspiracy involved people with detailed knowledge of department procedures and access to official uniforms and equipment. "We need to get back inside," Elena decided, "but carefully. If there are multiple people involved, we don't know who we can trust." As they prepared to return to the building, Rex positioned himself at the front of the group, his senses alert for any sign of danger. The dog had become their early warning system, the only member of their group whose loyalty and instincts were beyond question. Marcus looked at his loyal partner and realized that Rex had been trying to protect them from something much more complex and dangerous than any of them had imagined. The morning's discoveries had revealed that their investigation had attracted the attention of people with resources and capabilities far beyond ordinary criminals. The truth was emerging, but with it came the terrifying realization that they were now targets of people who would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. The confrontation came sooner than any of them expected. As Marcus, Amanda, Jake, Captain Mitchell, and Elena made their way back into the precinct building, Rex suddenly stopped in the main lobby, his hackles rising as he stared toward the elevator bank. The German Shepherd's body language indicated extreme alertness, but not the aggressive stance he had shown when encountering threats earlier. "Rex senses something," Marcus observed, trusting his partner's instincts completely after the events of the past day and a half. Elena checked her weapon discreetly, her federal training evident in the smooth, practice motion. "If someone's been impersonating Chief Harrison, we need to verify who we're dealing with before we go any further." Captain Mitchell led them toward her office. But as they passed the reception desk, the duty sergeant called out to them, "Captain Mitchell, Chief Harrison asked me to tell you that he's waiting in conference room B with some visitors from Internal Affairs. He wants Detective Thompson to join the meeting immediately." Rex's reaction was immediate and dramatic. The dog began barking and pulling against his leash, trying to lead Marcus away from the conference rooms and toward the building's exit. His behavior was so agitated that other officers in the lobby stopped to watch. "Rex doesn't want me going to that meeting," Marcus said, studying his partner's body language. "He's never been this insistent about avoiding a location inside the building." Elena was checking something on her phone when her expression changed dramatically. "Marcus, I just received a message from my supervisor at FBI headquarters. Chief Harrison died 3 days ago in a car accident on Interstate 25. The man we've been dealing with is an imposter." The revelation hit them like a physical blow. Amanda grabbed Marcus's arm. "Then who have we been talking to? Who's been taking our evidence and trying to control the investigation?" Captain Mitchell was already on her radio, trying to reach building security when Rex bolted toward conference room B. The German Shepherd's barking echoed through the hallway as he scratched frantically at the closed door. "Someone's in distress in there," Marcus realized, following his partner down the hallway. As they approached the conference room, they could hear muffled voices through the door. Elena drew her weapon and motioned for the others to stay back while she listened carefully. "I can hear at least 3 people inside," she whispered. "One of them sounds like they're in distress." Marcus tried the door handle, but it was locked. Rex was becoming increasingly frantic, his barking taking on the urgent tone that Marcus had learned meant someone was in immediate danger. "We're going in," Captain Mitchell decided, using her master key to unlock the door. Inside conference room B, They found a scene that explained everything that had happened over the past 2 days. The real Chief Harrison, or rather, someone who had been impersonating him, sat at the conference table with 2 other men in dark suits. But it was immediately clear that this wasn't an official meeting. The man they had known as Chief Harrison was actually Detective David Walsh, a veteran officer who had been presumed dead after an undercover operation went wrong 2 years earlier. Walsh had used his presumed demise to assume Harrison's identity and infiltrate the department's highest levels of command. Under David Walsh, Captain Mitchell breathed, recognizing him despite the changes to his appearance. "We thought you were killed in the warehouse district incident." Walsh looked up at them with a mixture of resignation and defiance. "Sarah, you always were too smart for your own good. Yes, I've been using Harrison's identity to investigate the corruption that killed my partner and nearly killed me 2 years ago." The 2 men with Walsh stood up, revealing themselves to be agents from the Department of Homeland Security. One of them, a tall man with graying hair, stepped forward. "I'm Agent Robert Chen, DHS Internal Security. Detective Walsh has been working undercover for us since he survived the attempt on his life. The corruption investigation goes far deeper than municipal contracts." Eleanor looked confused. "Agent Chen, I have no record of DHS involvement in this operation. My FBI unit should have been briefed on any parallel investigations." Agent Chen's expression grew grim. "Agent Vasquez, your investigation inadvertently uncovered a national security threat. The corruption in Denver's city contracts was being used to launder money for a domestic terrorism network. We've been tracking the financial transfers for 18 months. Rex had calmed down now that the door was open and he could see everyone in the room, but he remained alert. Positioned between Marcus and the DHS agents. That explains the sophisticated surveillance equipment and the jamming technology, Amanda realized. We weren't just dealing with local corruption. We stumbled into a counter-terrorism operation. Walsh Harrison nodded grimly. The morning attack on Marcus wasn't random. His investigation into the Riverside contracts was getting close to exposing the money laundering operation. Someone in the network decided he needed to be discredited or eliminated. But why all the secrecy? Jake asked. Why not just read us in on the operation? Agent Chen exchanged glances with his partner. Because we weren't certain who else might be compromised within the Denver PD. The financial records showed payments to at least 3 police department employees, but we hadn't identified all of them. Marcus felt a chill as he realized the implications. "And you suspected all of us?" "Not suspected. We needed to verify," Walsh corrected. "Your reactions to the planted evidence, your investigative methods, your loyalty to each other and to Rex, all of it was being evaluated to determine if you were part of the corruption or victims of it." Elena was reviewing something on her tablet. The surveillance footage from the warehouse, the planted tracking devices, even the sabotaged elevator. It was all designed to test our responses and gather intelligence on who might be compromised. "Exactly," Agent Chen confirmed. "And you all passed. Your dedication to uncovering the truth, even when it meant questioning your own chain of command, proved that you weren't part of the conspiracy." Rex walked over to Walsh and sniffed him carefully, his tail beginning to wag slightly. The dog's acceptance seemed to indicate that whatever threat he had been sensing was no longer present. Rex knew something was wrong with the situation, but not necessarily with you, Marcus observed. He was trying to protect us from the danger, not from you personally. Captain Mitchell was processing everything they had learned. "So the real corruption network, where does that investigation stand?" Agent Chen opened a briefcase and pulled out several thick folders. "Thanks to Detective Thompson's original investigation and the evidence you gathered yesterday, we were able to identify the final pieces of the money laundering operation. Arrests are being made simultaneously in Denver, Phoenix, and Las Vegas as we speak." Walsh looked directly at Marcus. Your instincts were correct from the beginning. The Riverside contracts were the key to everything. The companies involved were shell organizations designed to move money to fund domestic terrorist activities. And the people who tried to stop our investigation, Amanda asked. 2 city council members and a senior official in the mayor's office have been arrested this morning, Agent Chen reported. The network has been completely dismantled. Elena closed her tablet and looked around the room. This has been one of the most complex operations I've ever been involved in. The level of coordination required to maintain Walsh's cover while conducting the investigation was extraordinary. Rex had settled down beside Marcus, his demeanor finally relaxed for the first time since the previous morning. The dog seemed to understand that the danger had passed and that the people around them were no longer threats. "There's one more thing," Walsh said, reaching into his jacket. The real Chief Harrison left specific instructions about what should happen to his position if anything ever happened to him. He recommended that Captain Mitchell be promoted to fill his role permanently. Captain Mitchell looked stunned. "David, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll accept," Marcus interjected. "You've earned it, and this department needs leadership we can trust." As the meeting concluded and the various federal agents prepared to depart, Marcus felt a profound sense of closure. The conspiracy that had threatened to destroy his career and his faith in law enforcement had been exposed, and justice was being served. Rex looked up at him with what Marcus could swear was satisfaction in the dog's intelligent eyes. Over the past 2 days, his partner had demonstrated once again why the bond between a police officer and his canine companion was so special. Rex had sensed danger, guided them to evidence, and protected them from threats that human instincts might have missed. "Good boy," Marcus said, kneeling down to embrace his loyal partner. "You saved us all." Rex. As they walked out of the precinct building together, the overcast sky was beginning to clear, allowing the first rays of sunshine to break through the clouds. Marcus realized that the morning that had begun with such promise of tranquility 2 days ago had indeed changed everything, but in ways that would make their community safer and their department stronger. The investigation was over, the corruption network had been dismantled, and the bonds of trust between colleagues had been tested and proven strong. Most importantly, the partnership between Marcus and Rex had once again demonstrated that sometimes the most reliable instincts come from those who love us unconditionally and see the world through different eyes. Amanda joined them as they walked toward their patrol car. "So, Detective Thompson, what's our next case?" Marcus smiled, watching as Rex trotted ahead of them, alert and ready for whatever challenges might come next. "I don't know, but I have a feeling Rex will let us know when we find it." The sunny morning that had promised such tranquility had become something extraordinary, a reminder that heroes come in many forms, and that sometimes the most important truths are discovered by those who never stop believing in justice, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us to those we serve and protect. Dear viewers, we hope that the story of Detective Marcus Thompson and his loyal partner Rex has moved and inspired you. This tale of loyalty, courage, and the unbreakable bond between partners reminds us that truth always emerges when we have the courage to pursue it. Just like Rex's unwavering dedication to protecting those he loves, we're dedicated to bringing you stories that touch your hearts and minds every single day. If this story captivated you, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. We have carefully prepared a special playlist with equally compelling stories that explore the depths of human connection and courage. You can find it by clicking to your left. Share your thoughts about Marcus and Rex's incredible journey in the comments below. Your engagement helps us continue creating these meaningful narratives that celebrate the heroes among us, both human and four-legged. Join our community of story lovers and don't miss our upcoming content that promises to take you on new, emotional adventures.